Lately I'd been feeling stretched thin from long days at work, so I thought maybe it's time to do the opposite. No logistics, no decisions, no route planning, no wild camping. Just something easy, to simply exist in the mountains. I imagined myself drifting through the Alps, floating from one postcard village to the next, wrapped in cool mountain air, with nothing to do but walk, eat, sleep and repeat. But the thing about slowing down is, it doesn't always feel slow. Instead of clarity, I found myself foggy-headed in the middle of a heat wave. I thought I needed stillness, but maybe what I really needed was to let go of how I thought stillness should feel. I arrived in Oberammergau late in the day, and the Kofo caught my eye straight away. It rose behind the town like a perfect spire. Everything here moved slowly. Painted houses, quiet streets, the kind of place where nothing really demands your attention. That evening, I had pork knuckle for dinner, crispy and hearty. It's something that always reminds me I'm back in Germany. I sat there for a while, listening to soft conversations I couldn't understand, watching the lights shift outside as evening drew in. There was no need to plan the next day or open any maps. The trail was already taken care of, I just had to show up. I started the day later than usual because the chairlift didn't start until 10, and in a way I welcomed that. It meant no rushing, no frantic packing, just a quiet breakfast and a moment to breathe. But that also meant that the sun was already well in the sky when I started. You know, this really reminds me of the Dolomites, having chairlifts and cable car everywhere to help you up the mountain. I guess these are popular ski resorts during the winter, but everything's so green right now. It's gonna be a nightmare to color grade, but it smells so nice. Oh, I can't wait. At the top, Hütte greeted me with a sweep of open sky. From here, I could see the Kofo rising like a perfect cone, sharp, symmetrical, almost too neat to be real. The trail immediately led me into a pine forest, where the air turned cooler, quieter. The scent of sun-warmed pine trees was familiar and strange at once. It brought me back to the Annapurna circuit. Somehow, it also reminded me of wooden houses in Japan. Eventually, the forest opened up and the path climbed steadily. White limestone outcrops began to appear, jagged and sculptural, rising from the slopes like ruins from an older world. By midday, I arrived at August's Schuster house, one of many mountain huts I'd come to recognize this week. I wasn't especially tired, but I stopped anyway. Found a chair with a view and just sat there, doing nothing in particular. It's not what I usually do on hikes, but that was the point, I suppose. To slow down, to not always be moving toward the next thing. Beyond the hut, the trail narrowed. Rocky paths curled around the mountainside, with steep drop-offs to one side. It wasn't dangerous, but it was just exposed enough to make me careful with every step. And in being careful, I found myself more present, watching the way light shifted across the ridges, noticing the sound of wind reaving through the trees below. But as the afternoon wore on, the sun grew heavier. There was no shade, and the air started to press in. I wasn't walking far, but it felt harder than it should. I kept thinking the views would distract me from the heat, and in moments they did, but it didn't stop my head from spinning. I wasn't enjoying myself as much as I thought I would, which was frustrating but also honest. Eventually, the descent began, and I welcomed the return of pine trees like old friends. The temperature dipped, my pace eased. And then, almost without warning, the trail opened onto a vast car park. I thought I'd taken a wrong turn, but beyond the rows of gravel and the low hum of tour buses, something caught my eye, a glint of gold, a sculpted hedge, and then suddenly I was standing at the edge of Linderhof Palace, ornate, theatrical, entirely unexpected. Its garden stretched out in perfect symmetry, part French formality, part Italian romance. Fountains, statues, manicured lawns, a world away from the forest I'd just left. Back in Oberammergau, I ended my day with gelato and a burger, not the most traditional meal, but the kind of simple pleasure that makes sense after a long walk in the sun. Then finally back to the hotel to peel off my shoes, lie down, and try again to let the day catch up with me. Another thing I'm not so fond of about summer is how hard it makes it to chase sunrises, sunsets, and night skies, not without sacrificing sleep. And maybe I shouldn't be chasing everything anyway. This morning I tried leaving Oberammergau earlier, hoping to stay ahead of the sun. I dropped off my luggage at the hotel and trusted it would find its way to the next one, said goodbye to the little town and headed out. So it's day 2 of my hike today, just dropped off my luggage at the hotel. Hopefully it would make it to my next one. I thought I didn't need this nice hotel, but I'm not complaining, it was a nice recovery day. Almost immediately, the scent of cut grass hit me, rich and green and unmistakably summer. The kind of smell that anchors you, even when everything feels like it's drifting. The walk to Ettal Abbey wasn't particularly remarkable, just trees, tarmac, and a quiet path through the valley. But the abbey itself, that was something else. Fewer tourists than Linderhof, no crowds, just stillness. Tucked in a hollow between the mountains, Ettal Abbey has stood since the 14th century. Inside, it smelled of wax and stone. Light filtered down from the dome like something sacred. It felt grounded, like it belonged to a different time. Slower, steadier, older than the noise most of us live with. A reminder that not everything needs to be moving to have meaning. I carried on towards Garmisch. The trail climbed through the woods, long stretches of forest that never quite broke open. I kept hoping to rise above the tree line, to reach a view that would give me some energy back. But instead I found only heat, thick humid air trapped in the trees. No breeze, no sky, just sweat. At the highest point of the day, I caught a glimpse of snow-dusted peaks ahead. I was so overheated, I half hoped that looking at snow would cool me down. It didn't. The struggle continued until Flagey, a small lake, still and dark, where I paused, took a breath, and tried to reset. So hot. I want an ice cream, but I can't understand the word in the menu, so I ordered Coca-Cola. Should I go for deep later? Looks cool. And then finally I reached Garmisch, walked straight into the energy of an ultra running event, past open-air cafes and outdoor gear shops. Something about it felt right. A place built for motion, but not frantic. I liked it straight away. My hotel was on Ludwigstrasse, one of those historic streets that looks like a painting. Pastel facades, ornate signs, mountain light pooling across cobblestones. I told myself to slow down, to enjoy the soft bed, the proper dinner, and the fact that I was sleeping indoors and not in a tent. But even with all of that, my body felt heavy, my head full. I kept asking myself, what am I doing wrong? There were things past deadline, messages I hadn't replied to, ideas I hadn't written down. And every 15 minutes, the church bell rang, not gently, but with insistence. A reminder, it seemed, that I still hadn't done enough. Maybe I just needed more time to slow my mind the way I've slowed my steps. I came to the Alps looking for stillness, but maybe I haven't arrived yet. Slow travel isn't just about moving slower, it's about learning how to be where you are. Maybe tomorrow I'll find it, somewhere beyond the trees, above the heat. Maybe the Alps are still waiting for me to catch up.